Welcome to the Money Signal podcast from Main Street to Wall Street.
I am an inventor.
I think your story is just so fascinating and inspiring.
I have a history of being a first responder. I started off with the New York City Police Department as an auxiliary police officer. I actually invented a product in a building collapse rescue. And I was at a trade show, and one of the Invention companies, the CEOs, I know him, he came over and he kind of threatened me.
Anytime anyone threatens an entrepreneur, you know the entrepreneur is on the right track
Yes.
for success. Welcome to the Money Signal podcast from Main Street to Wall Street. Today, I am joined by Christopher Landano, who I had the pleasure to meet a while back at one of the events in relation to Shark Tank and the product world out there, which I'm still learning quite a bit about. Chris, I am so happy to have you in this seat next to me, and I'm so honored to have you on the Money Signal podcast. A big welcome to you.
Oh, thank you. It's a pleasure. I'm sitting in some big seats. I mean, you have Peter Tuchman, Chris Guerrera. It's pretty cool to be here.
Well, you're a very special guest, so I'm incredibly excited to talk about several things today. On the Money Signal podcast, we always look for signals. I think your story is just so fascinating and inspiring, and I'd love for you to help walk us through some of the signals that you've seen from personal story and life, and then how that turned into inspiration for actually products and turning them into very successful products that then you put on the market and sell. But before we do any of that, I would love for you to do an introduction of yourself and tell our audience who you are and what you do.
Sure. My name is Christopher Landano. I'm from Queens, New York, just a few miles away from here, which is awesome. I am currently a partner at Modern Inventor with Christopher Guerrera. I am an inventor. I've got a product that I've been working on for many years, which I actually invented while working as a forensic photographer for the New York City Fire Department. I have a history of being a first responder. I had just over 20 years as a first responder here in New York City. I started off with the New York City Police Department as an auxiliary police officer. And then as I was doing the auxiliary, I became a New York State emergency medical technician. And then I was hired by the fire department to become an EMT on an ambulance. And then from EMT ambulance for a few years, I was promoted to New York City Firefighter. And while I was working with the fire department and being a forensic photographer, I actually invented a product in a building collapse rescue in Queens. And that's kind of what brought me into this whole world of manufacturing, and it's opened up a lot of doors. I've met some amazing individuals, Chris Guerrera being one of them. Chris and I went from being, colleagues to friends to now family. I would do anything for Chris, and Chris would do anything for me. When I'm in a tough situation, Chris is my go-to. And he's always there for me, him and Brandy. And so, it's a crazy story, but I think it's inspiring because I love to always look back and help other inventors and entrepreneurs, because what a lot of people don't talk about, and I try not to focus too much on it, but the misleading of information by hundreds of American invention companies and consultants that are literally killing innovation. Because there's people that have great ideas and they come across path of one of these bad companies, and these companies, there's a plan, there's a strategy. They go after a certain demographic person, typically someone who's older, who has a good nest egg and wants to maybe, they think they have a great idea to leave for their grandchildren, and they get them for anywhere from, I've seen people come to me and tell me this company got them for $300,000.
So fascinating being on the product side of the journey. It sounds like you've lived several lives in one. So you mentioned NYPD, you mentioned the fire department in New York City, And first and foremost, I have to thank you for your service. As someone who's lived in New York City for close to 2 decades now, I have always depended on people like you and their bravery, so thank you for that. And of course, thank you to all of our first responders. We appreciate you tremendously.
Yeah, so I would say God bless our first responders, active and retired, and those who are battling cancers and all sorts of stuff. It's a job that takes a toll on you. It takes a toll on your family, and yes.
It's a tough role to be in, and it seems like you've done so many interesting jobs in one, starting from being a respondent and being again in the services to then becoming an inventor. I almost feel like, again, I love just thinking about the life around me, and as an entrepreneur myself, like what are those signals that I constantly see around me, and when do I know that the next big idea might be around the corner, and like what would make it successful? I'd love for you to walk me back to your earlier days. So let's first unpack the fire department.
Okay.
FD New York, and again, like you working at also NYPD. Like, what was it a calling for you to go into the services? Like, what made you want to do that?
No, 100%. I think, when we're kids, every kid wants to be a superhero. And then I think going through my teenage years, I started doing a lot of community service. And I knew I had a passion for helping people. At 12 years old, I had received an award from the Lions Club in Queens for doing the most community service in my school. And they had given me a check, and I was like, for $250 at 12 years old. However, my mother took that check and said that she would hold on to it for when I was older. I don't think I ever saw that money again. But I was like, oh, wow, I could be rewarded for helping people. I was doing volunteer work in a senior citizen center. And then I was so involved in the community, and I found out about my local precinct had what was called a local civilian observation patrol, where people who live in the community, who are business owners, homeowners, they can go out on patrol with the precinct, and they would respond to non-emergency type of things. So if there was an accident, we would help out with traffic. If someone was doing graffiti, we can maybe, help the cops, observe and do a lot of non-emergent. We didn't have any guns and like that. And that what became a passion of mine. And then the community had a local volunteer ambulance, which local volunteer ambulances are all over New York City, and they're all over the country. And then you have some fire departments that are paid and some fire departments that are volunteer, right? If you live out in Long Island, some are volunteers, like in some beautiful neighborhoods, and some are paid. And so I was studying to become an emergency medical technician, and I was working with the community patrol out of the 104th precinct in Queens. And I knew that there was auxiliary NYPD. And auxiliary NYPD was strictly volunteer. You wear a uniform, you go out on patrol as an extra pair of eyes and ears, and it's kind of the step you do right before you become a police officer. And so I was getting my feet wet as an auxiliary, wearing the uniform, working with other New York City police officers. And I knew that I would love being a police officer because that was definitely a passion of mine, But someone had told me, take all the city exams. So I took the test for New York City Firefighter, and the fire department called me first, but to work on a New York City ambulance. So I started working on a New York City ambulance. I was still doing the auxiliary NYPD, and then I got the call a few years later to become a firefighter, which was in 2003.
Wow. After
9/11. But I was hired by the fire department in 2000, and having studied photography in college, the fire department had a forensics unit. And so just about April of 2001, I was able to get into that forensics unit because I knew how to process film. They needed an extra guy. And so that was my job as a first responder, working in a specialized unit as a forensic photographer, responding around the city. And that's how I invented my product.
Well, that's absolutely fascinating as a journey. Again, I think it takes a different type of person to be a respondent. It
Yes.
has, it has a lot to do again with some of the things that you have seen and experienced, and the mental strength that you have to have. I'd love to hear more about your entrepreneurial journey of that same product, because I know, as again, like we've talked offline and online about the multitude of products that you've touched in your lifetime as an inventor through the Modern Inventor. But how did you come with the idea for your own product, and how that product will actually end up changing and the industry ultimately?
That's what we hope. 100%. Yeah, it's no one had ever invented a product in my family, and at the time I invented it back in 2003. This was before Shark Tank. So today you have 5-year-olds inventing products, prototyping it in their house, and then going on to Shark Tank. Right? It's crazy. But back in 2003, between 2003 and 2009, before Shark Tank. I don't know when Shark Tank's first season was, maybe 2009, 2010. But I was asking people, like, how do you invent? And I'll tell you what happened was I was photographing in a building collapse rescue in Queens. And it was, you've seen some of the photos. And as I was making my way out of that area, because it was still a very unsafe scene, I got caught up on debris. And I was wearing a photography belt that I bought in a store, B&H Photography. And I was trying to get through a piece of concrete, and a piece of rebar had gotten caught on the belt. And I had sort of been trapped. And I had to kind of quick release the buckle to drop the whole thing behind me so that I could make it through what was impeding me. But I didn't even know I was an inventor. What I did was I went out looking for a product like that in the stores. And
so a product that's a belt.
A product that was a belt or something that allowed me to rotate my gear easily.
Mm-hmm. Any gear, basically.
Anything on your waist, on your person, and I couldn't find it. So I ended up making what I didn't know back then was called a prototype. I ended up making a prototype, and I used it at all the fire scenes that I went to photograph. And it was basically like a body harness that could spin around. And I took an existing product and I modified it.
Okay.
And about a year later, where I studied photography, my college professor was like, "Chris, will you come and speak to the students?" I was like, "You're a great story. You studied photography here. You're photographing amazing photos. You got to come back." And he said, "Bring all your gear with you." So I brought my gear. I did a whole presentation for the students, and I talked to them about how I modified the system to work for me. And my Professor Allen at the time said to me, "You may have invented something." And I was like, "What? Say what?" And that's when the light bulb went off. And he was like, "Chris, you may have invented something." And then that's when that journey started. I was like, "How do you invent?" And I had spoken to so many people, friends, family, people that knew people. At the time, I was working at a YMCA. And no one knew anything about inventing. It wasn't like today, right? Today, There's so many people with products. And so I had to kind of start from scratch. And I ended up joining at the time, it was called the Manhattan Inventors and Entrepreneurs Club. Mm-hmm. And now it's a club that I run with a sponsor and another group of attorneys, which is pretty cool. But I was going to that club and I started learning about how you invent. And so in that club, I was meeting people who had launched products, who had hit a lot of success, a lot of failure. A lot of people were telling me, "Oh, that's going to be a complicated product. It's going to cost a lot." And I met an engineer. He would come to the meetings every month from New Hampshire. He'd get on a train. Awesome guy. And he became my first mechanical engineer. And we built the first prototype in like 2010.
Wow.
Meanwhile, I invented it in 2000. I came up with the idea in 2003.
Right.
Which was the same time that I became a New York City firefighter. And the first 5 years that you're a firefighter, first 6 or 7 years that you're a firefighter, you just got to stay laser focused. And that was my priority. And then later I had some time to work on the product and take it through the process.
Wow. So you saw the signs and the signals because you have been walking in and thankfully out of burning buildings and of very disturbing scenes of debris and basically what's left of buildings. And that's the moment that you actually recognize that there is something missing on the market.
Yep.
And that is that there's nothing, no product out there that provides firefighters or our first responders, even if they're not in the fire department, with a belt
let me correct you.
Yeah, please go ahead.
The product is not for firefighting or first responders at all. It's for trade professionals. So for me, I invented it. For me, at the time, I was working as a forensic photographer. Mm-hmm. So I thought, oh, this would work for me as a forensic photographer.
You have all your gear, your cameras, your
around your waist.
SD cards, yeah. Okay.
And most people never would put anything on the back of their body because then they're reaching for it and, you can cause injury or it's just not easy. So my target audience initially was just photographers.
Okay.
And what happened was I started going out to photography clubs out in Long Island. There's like this whole chain of photography clubs. And I was reaching out to them and I was telling them I had a prototype. I want to get feedback from other photographers. I want to see if this thing is worth pursuing. And I had some patent protection. You file a provisional patent. And I started doing demos at these photography clubs. And then one day, one guy comes up to me and says, wait a minute, I'm a photographer on the weekends, but I'm a contractor during the week.
Wow.
And then one person came up to me and said, this could be used for fly fishing. This could be used for tactical. And then it was like, oh, wait a minute. It's not just a niche industry. Mm-hmm. It's actually several huge industries. Mm-hmm. And that's when I started to realize maybe I really do have something here.
Yeah, maybe that is a sign or a signal to read and to act on.
Yes,
yes.
And I couldn't find it in any stores. I could not find it in any stores. And that's when I started learning through this Manhattan Inventors Club on the process and the steps. And one of my very first meetings, and almost every meeting after that, I would run into inventors who were very experienced, and they kind of like me being a first responder. People respected that, and they were like, listen, beware of the scams and the fraud. And, it was always in the back of my head.
And what do they mean specifically by that? Because when I hear about, scamming in the product world, it doesn't really mean too much to me because I'm not close to it.
At the time, I had no idea. Because no one was really specific. Everyone, wanted to be careful about what companies they were. What I was told was marketing companies or companies that say they can bring your product to a market and it's a one-stop shop of everything you need under one roof. We do it all. Mm-hmm. That was the big red flag.
Okay.
And that's continued to today.
So never trust companies who claim to do everything from prototyping, you're saying, to marketing.
There might be some companies out there that are legit, but you've got to do your research. And, we could touch a little bit on it because there are, right now as we speak, tens of thousands of Americans are being scammed. And they're being scammed in a way that these companies, they mislead with information and they provide minimal services, which takes them out of like a scam or Ponzi scheme, right? If you exchange money for you get something back in return, that's their protection. But what the inventors don't do is the inventors don't do any research on the company's success. These companies have fake websites.
Wow.
Their success rate is less than 1%, and they claim that they have a higher percentage.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
is the scary part for the inventor, is it the fact that you put in such a huge amount of your savings into the product? Or have you heard of stories of basically someone's invention getting stolen? Like, what's the danger really?
So from my experience, right, and I've been in the industry now since 2012. I've been really active with trade shows, and I've been around some people that really know the industry really well. And for the most part, no one really steals your idea until you're making hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions. Typically,
why is that?
Typically because they let you do all the work. They let you get it to market. They let you make any changes that need to be changed. And then they go and they copy it. And they make these little tweaks. But in some instances, the inventor actually could fight them and win. But the cost of going to court is overwhelming. So the little guy has no chance.
What about patent laws? Aren't patents designed to help with that?
Patent laws changed in 2012, and there was a change in the law where big tech, and let's just say you invented a product and I wanted to steal it. There's a group that came out of this called the Patent Trials Appeals Board, the PTAB. And again, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving anyone any professional expert advice. It's just I'm around some good organizations that were formed to try to change the laws. But basically, patents can be taken from you.
Wow.
Yes.
So then,
as an inventor, you're so focused on just bringing your baby to market.
Yeah.
And most inventors have no clue how many people are out there. And it's patent attorneys, it's these independent consultants. It's so bad. It's terrible, and it all happens at trade shows. Trade shows could be great to expose your product, but it could be bad for all these big bad companies to be able to talk to you and try to pitch you their services, and they make it sound like it's free at first, and then once you get into the weeds with them and you had conversations with them, 3, 4, 5 months, then they're like, all right, well, it's going to cost you $20,000. Mm-hmm. Or they'll go for a higher number. Mm-hmm. They'll see what the there's a psychology behind it. They know how to kind of lure someone in. They have the conversations with them. They try to see like what kind of value what network they have, what kind of savings, what's this product worth. You're right. They go after their hopes and dreams. So there's a whole science to it. There's some really good books.
I'm sure. I mean, as far as I heard from you, the scamming industry for product invention is in the billions.
I would suspect at least, and I don't have any proof of it, but LegalZoom ran an article, I want to say a few years ago, and they estimated it that it was somewhere, I think it was 800 million. And I don't know where they got their numbers, but I would say it's doubled or tripled that. That's just what I suspect.
So American inventors are being scammed, and we're talking, again, in close to $1 billion at least.
I would say easy.
So what is that? How would that encourage anyone listening to go ahead and create a product? If I heard you talk about the patent laws being changed, and then I heard about obviously the difficulties. If I were to create a product right now, why would I be encouraged to do so?
So you've got to do your due diligence. You've got to find the right people.
Where do you find them is the question. Well, where are these people?
You reach out to us at Modern Inventor.
Okay.
So Modern Inventor was founded by Chris Guerrera. All right. Chris ran the interior group for BMW for many years. He's an expert at manufacturing. He's an expert at launching product. Chris and I have become close friends. I'm not going to say I'm a full-on expert on scam and fraud, but I have become really well at knowing who the warning signs and the red flags.
Okay.
And that's from I've been going to trade shows since 2012, just for my own research and my own product. And at the very first trade show I went to back in 2012 I think it was the National Hardware Show. I was meeting inventors that were telling me, be careful, be careful. And it was just like every year. And then in 2016, I met an inventor who I thought was being scammed. And he asked me for help. And I did some due diligence, and we've become friends because I helped him get out of dealing with this potential partnership with someone that was going to scam him. And that's when I realized that, oh, you know what? I rescued people all my life as a first responder. Maybe this is my calling. Maybe it's not to have a product in the market. It's to be more of a rescuer in a sense. And so I spent about 7 years researching, having conversations with people, going to trade shows, taking notes, doing hundreds of hours of research. And I ended up creating a company called Invent the Rescue. It was going to be an online website with just the best information on how to avoid what the red flags were. Mm-hmm. And I connected with Joe Fargo. He's a patent and trademark attorney. Originally I met him, he was volunteering, coming to our Inventor Club meetings in Queens. And he was just like, one day he was telling me, Chris, what's taking your patent so long? And I was like, I don't know. Now, I had 2 patent attorneys that I met that I felt like, oh my God, these are amazing women. Like, they're honest. Like, I'm in good hands.
Right.
And, you know, Joe literally took me through all the years of work and all the filings that they did. And he told me, you paid thousands of dollars for their mistakes. And he told me, we're going to remove, when you have a patent, you familiar with a patent?
I am,
patent?
yes, but maybe
So
let's break it down for
patent,
the audience.
I'm not an expert on the breakdown of a patent, but a patent consists of claims. And those claims are what get you your protection.
Okay. So claims that it's the unique product,
The
it doesn't
uniqueness,
exist in the market, it has a ticker and a tape and a color and
exactly,
kind of attributes.
Right? It's like the architecture of a building.
Okay.
Right? The drawings, the measurements, all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he basically in like 3 months removed all of their previous claims, and I got a patent.
Oh, wow. This is fascinating.
So Joe became a volunteer with Invent the Rescue, and every time someone would reach out to me, and I would kind of vet them a little bit, and this was just like a fun thing for me to do. I was enjoying it, and I was introducing people to Joe, and Joe was helping people get over stumps. I mean, he worked with one woman out of Texas that was being completely bamboozled by her attorney, and Shark Tank wanted to put her on the show. And she reached out. Chris Guerrero knew her, so Chris is like, oh, you got to speak to Chris Landano. So I spoke to her, and I'm like, okay, we got to get you connected to Joe. 6 months, maybe less. Joe takes over the whole thing. She gets on Shark Tank.
And where is she now?
I don't know. I've kind of lost touch with her. She had a product. I don't know where.
Did she strike a deal on Shark Tank? Do you know?
She did not strike a deal.
Okay. So hopefully she's doing
well. But she got on.
Well.
And you know, you look at Shark Tank, just getting on Shark Tank, you know, that can propel you into, you know, the next hemisphere with your product. Mm-hmm. But it also validates you as an entrepreneur, and there's a lot of great things that could come from that.
That is true. I mean, that's the power of social media and the power of TV media, right? And distribution, and where we are in the world in terms of like how digitalized we are.
Yes, and that's something I know nothing about. So you know, it's business is all about surrounding yourself with the right people.
That is true.
And I was a first responder most of my life. I never had success with business.
Business is indeed surrounding yourself with the right people.
Yeah,
and
coaches,
mentors,
right? And there comes a time when a coach or mentor can only take you to a certain level.
Right.
And then you have to, because I've had a few different coaches. Lately, I've been lucky the last 10 years, I've had Chris as my coach, my mentor, my older brother. And, you know, he's always kicking me in the butt. And it's like, Chris, you're taking too long. Just get it out there. And he's always right. I hate to say that, but yes, he's always right. And it's just surrounding yourself with the best people. And this is the problem, like an independent inventor, depending on where you are in the country, there's not as many resources. So right now, there's no one that is policing the invention industry. And I haven't really done too much with Invent the Rescue. I kind of pulled it back a little bit because I was threatened by a few big companies.
Terrible.
And people. And
Shameful.
And they'll have their day. But I pulled it back a little bit. I took the website down. Now it's a private URL that I only share with certain people, like my cousin who's a Secret Service agent for, and she runs cybersecurity. So she's like, let's go get them. So the time will come. But I need to focus, like Chris Guerrero says, stay focused on just get one thing. Let that one thing either be successful and propel you to the next thing, or you let that baby sail and you take, you fail forward and you move on to the next thing.
Yeah, well, I've learned one lesson as an entrepreneur, which I actually haven't shared with any of my audiences. So I've started several businesses. I've started 3 businesses. The second one did okay, but I ended up basically just shutting it down, just didn't have the energy and the time. My first and third business, though, as I started, the small person.
What was the signal for the second one that made you decide to?
The second signal was actually that it was a partnership. All my other businesses are run by me, and I am my own CEO. The second business was that it was a partnership, and the signal was that I move at the speed of light, and when you partner with people, sometimes things take longer, right? It was still a very successful company, but I just decided where not to put my energy. But the funny story, which is actually what I'm going to tell you may be happening, is when I started the first and my last business, basically, at the time of starting them, I immediately got hit with a cease and desist, which makes no sense, right? So I'm a nobody. I also, at the time I was starting my first business, was an immigrant. I wasn't even a citizen of the U.S., let alone not having any connections or any of that. And I just remember feeling this pressure from the world, thinking, why would anyone not want someone else to succeed and run a business? I mean, I can't take all the consumer insights business in the whole of the U.S. Why would anyone send a cease and desist? But there are many stories that entrepreneurs learn along the way. Same thing happened with my last business before I had even started it. There were people who were trying to stop me. I mean, again, that's where I love America and the fact that we have lawyers who can come in the picture and come and protect the individual. But the lesson is that if something is really, really good, what I've seen from my personal experience is that there will be people who are going to try to take you down immediately before you've even started. So maybe that's actually something I'm giving you as my experience. I'm sure you probably have a beautiful product and a great idea where people from the market are feeling threatened. And again, to all of the listeners who are out there between hearing the stress about starting a product and running a company and being an entrepreneur, never give up. Never give up. I always say that. Never give up, because you don't know what's around the corner, and it maybe just takes one extra push to do and execute the next step, and that might be your big breakthrough. But let's take a pause here and actually go back into I am an inventor, and I am an inventor. Actually, I have my own product that I'd love to launch on market. Walk me through, how can the Modern Inventor help me with my product? I mean, right now, my idea for the product is an idea, right? So if I come to you guys, can you help me launch this product?
So Chris is an expert. So Chris has the experience. He's got the eye. What he'll do is he'll meet with you, and first off, he'll feel you out if he wants to work with you.
As an entrepreneur.
Because that's always the first thing. Like, does this person have an ego? Is this person going to be hard to work with? Because when you come to when you're just starting out and you just have an idea, it's a lot of work. So if you come to Chris with an idea, he'll sit down with you. I've seen Chris sit down with anyone. But it also comes with, the risk of if you are not, if you don't have any experience in that industry, or you have no market research or data or anything that really proves, then it really is just an idea. If you've taken some steps and you've got a prototype,
okay,
and you've got some protection, maybe you filed for a provisional patent, and you could show Chris that there's value, and it fills a void, or there's nothing like it on the market. Chris has the eye that he can decide right then and there, or he'll bring it back and share with a few other people on the team that have a lot of experience with, launching products, or if it's worth the risk. And Chris has an amazing group of people behind the scenes in Modern Inventor. He'll bounce something off of me, but sometimes I kind of stay in my lane and I'm like, I really don't know. It looks pretty cool, but at the end of the day, there has to be some data behind it. So Chris would meet with someone with an idea. It's always better to meet with someone who's got a working product or has sales, but Chris can help take a product from idea right through the manufacturing and launching in super speed.
Oh, wow.
But Chris also, there's a few different ways that Chris can work that deal, but he would have to have skin in the game.
Yeah.
And there'd be some equity probably involved.
Yeah.
But for the most part, it's the folks that already have product on the market that want to get it on TV. Chris has so many relationships at Modern Inventor where he's getting product on TV. A lot of people have a good product and they're stuck with manufacturing. Chris has relationships with manufacturers. He can make it in the U.S. or he can
make it abroad.
Chris is a USA manufacturing guy. But we've got strong relationships with some suppliers in China or in Mexico. So it really depends on the stage that you're at. Sometimes the idea is a little too early for Chris, and he may say, listen, you're a little too early, but he'll send them over to me sometimes because I never got a chance to launch my product. I did a soft launch, but I never launched it. So he'll connect them to me, and I'll be like, Chris, just kind of see if you can steer them, get them connected to Joe Farco, and get them connected to prototyping. I try to steer them in the right direction.
Okay.
Because when people go online and they do a Google search, the first few pages of the information that comes back are bad people.
Okay. So we're remembering that for anyone who's out there who's looking to do product launch.
And not everyone that comes up is bad, but it's a lot of the bad companies when you're doing Google searching. It's such a tough industry. I would say figure out what industry your product is going to fall into. So like, for example, if it's a hardware product, like mine's a tool belt, or if it's something for your house, go out to the National Hardware Show, walk the aisles, try to talk to people. There are different trade shows that have different inventor areas. The inventor areas sometimes can be like it can be a place where all the bad guys just hang out, and they are just, marketing their bad services. Inventors can get swallowed up really quickly if they're not up to date on the bad guys.
So do your research well.
And you got it, but it's so hard because there's no one out there telling inventors to beware.
It must be, again, if you're not from this industry, there's no way to know, right?
There's no way
to what the landmines are and what the traps are, where they lay.
Perfect example, without saying any names, right? We know someone who's very smart, very wealthy, fell victim to one of the top scammers in the country.
Right. And no product comes out.
And no product comes out. And there's a scheme. There's a scheme, and they'll take your money and then they'll be like, oh, all right, you know what? This guy can help you. And then he figures out what he can get out of you, you know? Another scheme that's really big right now, and I hear it from a lot of inventors, they speak to these product marketing companies, you know, these companies that say they can help inventors. And they'll say, well, we think this is a great idea. We got to take it back and share it with the team.
Of course, and they steal
and then the guy goes to the gym or goes have lunch, and he comes back and he calls the inventor and he says, listen to me, I just spoke to the CEO of the company. He's jumping on the call. He's so excited. Now the inventor's like, holy shit, this is big, right? Now the psychology, and they tell the inventor, like, this is big. It's going to be a lot of money. Like, it's probably going to cost us, I don't know, this is, you know, it's complex. There's nothing like it. The marketing, let's just say they throw a number, the inventor is going to be $200,000. And the inventor's like, oh man, I can't afford that. And they're like, well, what can you afford? And the inventor, you know, is able to pull together 100,000. They'll say, you know what? We're going to put up the other 100.
We believe in you so much. We believe in you
so much that we're going to put up our money. And the inventor puts up, you know, tells the wife, oh my God, they believe in me. We're going to mortgage the house. We're going to take loans. And they get the $100,000. And then it's like, how come you guys aren't getting back to me? And it just drags on, you know. The company never puts up a dime.
Wow.
That's huge right now.
It is. Those are the sad stories that we hear about. And also when I watch Shark Tank, I hear all the time the inventors say, oh, I took out, again, mortgage against like a loan against the mortgage or credit cards, and you max out, you take all of your savings.
And there's a huge amount of Shark Tank entrepreneurs who've been on the show, who've aired, their episode aired, and they are just getting destroyed with knockoffs.
Yeah.
So at Modern Inventor, we just partnered with one of the top companies in the United States that I worked with originally with Inventor Rescue. I connected with them, and they do a number of different things to help inventors fight off knockoffs. They're doing education, how to fight the knockoffs, and then if the company that's knocking them off, if it's like a huge number and they think it's worth it, they have a whole team of attorneys that will look at the case. If they think it's worth it, they'll put all of their money and resources into it.
What do they get out of it?
They don't charge the inventor.
Okay.
It's totally on their risk. And I guess they have a formula, or they gauge the strength of the other company, the size of them. And so if they win, I think they take 60% of what they get back, and the entrepreneur, the inventor, gets 40%, but now that infringer just got taken off the map. And now they give them kind of a roadmap to fight off other infringers. There's a few organizations that I've connected with, but no one knows about them. So we just partnered with them. We're excited. And so they're going to be at our event next week. We're going to get them involved at any of our future events. Good group of guys. I've worked with them now for a few years. I've sent a few inventors. In fact, I heard about them. I was at a trade show, and I had one Shark Tank entrepreneur tell me, "Oh my God, I was getting killed, but I hired these guys, and they helped me."
Nice.
And I took a mental note. And then I was at another trade show, and then someone was like, "Oh yeah, I hired these guys," and I was like, "Oh wait a minute, I heard about that." And then the third person, and I was like, "All right, I'm sold." So it's a good partnership, but there's a lot of Shark Tank entrepreneurs that are getting destroyed by infringers, and there's ways to fight them. But a small entrepreneur, you know, who's just focused on getting their product off the ground and dealing with retail and manufacturing, you're wearing a lot of hats.
So it sounds like there are many resources to help the inventor with launching and protecting your product and innovation.
Yes, and so I had the Inventor Rescue website up. And I was at a trade show, and one of the Invention companies, you know, the CEOs, I know him, older guy, big guy, he came over and he kind of threatened me. And I did a few phone calls with him, but I knew I was on the right track because he was threatened by me. But he told me, oh, I could step on you like a cockroach. And that's when I knew I was on the right track. And then I was at another trade show, and someone had said to me, you know, we've seen your website, like, you know. You have
Anytime,
no idea what you're dealing with.
yeah, anytime anyone threatens an entrepreneur, you know the entrepreneur is on the right track for success.
Yes, but I did. I pulled the website down, and I'm staying focused on Track Belt and Modern Inventor, and then I'm kind of like working on that in the background. But people reach out to me all the time, and what kills me is about 3 months ago, I had a U.S. veteran, disabled veteran, reach out to me, and she told me she was scammed for $20,000, and she told me the company, and I know who it is. And then probably a few weeks ago, I had another gentleman out of Florida. He's out. He lost $110,000 to a company, and I know that. And you know the issue is there's no the folks that can do something about it, who have done things in the past. Federal Trade Commission, they're asleep at the wheel. They did if you look it up, Operation Mousetrap, back in like, I don't know, the early 2000s or 90s, where they were reaching out to these companies, and they caught them just lying to people. And then unfortunately, you got the United States Patent and Trademark Office. They have a scam and fraud department, but you know, I won't say anything about that. I'll leave it at that.
Well, this is a very interesting conversation. I'm sure there's much more to say about all of it. But I am very glad that what we covered is actually the whole path of the entrepreneurship journey as an inventor. Because our listeners, I'm sure there are many out there who are probably looking to invent a product. And we'll make sure to link your website, the Modern Inventor, as a resource to all of them, so they could reference back, and if they need any help with the invention of their product, they could always reach out. Christopher Landano, thank you.
I'm working on the website. Chris Landano, ChristopherLandano.com should be up hopefully within the next few weeks.
Perfect. We'll make sure to link that too.
Awesome.
Thank you so much for the
thank you for having me.
Incredible conversation. It's been an honor. And to all of our viewers and listeners, thank you so much for being with the Money Signal podcast from Main Street to Wall Street. Stay tuned for more interesting episodes, and make sure you follow us on official social media pages. Our information will be linked to our bio, and it's the moneysignalpodcast.com for any official information from us. See you soon.